So today we are going to talk about ludomusicology. That's a big word that boils down to the study of video game music, which is what we're doing in this class, and you're going to see it in the literature a lot. So ludomusicology is, according to this book, which you'll read a little bit of this week, the study of the relationship between music and play. This book, Ludomusicology, as you would suspect, helps break down the field to someone who might be new to it. It is a book by multiple authors, in this case edited by 3 people who are pretty important contributors to the field: Michelle Camp, Tim Summers, and Mark Sweeney. Another definition of ludomusicology is the academic study of video and computer game music, from the Ludomusicology Society of Australia, which you can go on the internet and check out yourself. The term combines 2 words: ludo, from ludology, which is the study of games and gameplay, as well as musicology, which is the academic research-based study of music. These combine to form ludomusicology. Musicology is typically the field we reference when we are talking about writing about music. So musicology is a very general term meant to encompass the academic study of music. And ludomusicology is a relatively new field. It started with Karen Collins's book Game Sound in 2008. This is something we will also read a few chapters of, and it was kind of the first large publication dedicated to discussing video game music from this more critical academic viewpoint versus the simply discussion of producing it. Other authors that come up in this class or that I am informing my work by are Tim Summers, Michelle Camp, Mark Sweeney. William Chang is also a really wonderful author. Any academic field is going to have publications and conferences also, in addition to kind of textbook or chapter book sources. You have journals which will contain articles typically reviewed by peers in the field, like the Journal of Sound of Music and Video Games, as well as essay companions like the Oxford Companions and Cambridge Companions. You will see companions for many major academic subjects, and usually these essay collections assemble essays by a variety of authors rather than just one person. You also have conferences like the North American Conference on Video Game Music, the Ludomusicology Research Group, and those involve in-person, sometimes online, it depends, presentations that are the most recent that may or may not be published. In addition to academic resources like that, you also have podcasts and YouTube resources. I think a lot of high quality, very accessible work is happening this way as well. I really enjoy podcasts too, because naturally you get a chance to listen to the music, and they release material quite frequently. Pixelated Audio is a great one. Rhythm and Pixels, Bit Harmony, Bar Silence, Supermercado Brothers. You can access these via the podcast app on an iPhone or any app that you might play a podcast. In addition to that, YouTubers like 8-Bit Music Theory, Cadence Higa, Game Music 101 also have really excellent channels, and we have a week dedicated to checking these sort of resources out. So that's a snapshot of the type of materials that discuss ludomusicology, whether they say that they do or not. Now the question is, what sort of questions are we asking in this field? One big question, perhaps the biggest question, is how does game music relate to events and gameplay? Additionally, how do you analyze game music? How does interactivity, so that is just your ability to change what's going on in the game. So your ability to control a player in the game is an example of interactivity. How does that influence how game music is perceived? Another question is, what kind of cultures are formed through game music? One thing that comes to mind for me is like Dance Dance Revolution. I used to play a lot. I think there are entire cultures kind of formed around playing that game and just getting better at it, and they help each other. Definitely worth study. I haven't done it. I don't know if that's been done. Anyway, another question is, how is game music produced? So there's lots of questions that you can ask So the big one, how to analyze game music, is addressed in Chapter 2. This is the chapter that you're going to read. I will tell you how to get it later. And Chapter 2, which is titled Analyzing Video Game Music, Sources, Methods, and a Case Study, answers this question by discussing it through the lens of one video game, Halo Combat Evolved. Halo is a very popular video game, but also its soundtrack and the music from it has been studied a good deal, so it's a good example for discussing it. So we'll, in this video, talk about the main points of the chapter, which should prepare you for checking it out yourself. So the first thing that Summers talks about is that video games are complex and multidimensional texts. This means, in layman's terms, that there's a lot going on, and there are a lot of sources that you can use to learn more about a video game, including sources that are just in the game itself. There's a lot that you can learn from just engaging with the game in a deep way. And satellite sources, which are not the game, but related to the game, or talking about the game. In-game sources include comparing different versions of the video game, playing in an analytical way, so this is you just playing the game in a way that you might be paying a little bit more attention. Also checking out the code, the game engine, and finally analyzing the musical material, which is where things like music theory come into play. Comparing versions and editions of the different video game really only can happen if the video game has many editions. One thing that comes to mind is different versions of Final Fantasy games. For example, original Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Remake, there's some different music in the remake version that you might check out and see how it changes things for you, or how it might change how you feel about the gameplay. When the book describes analytical play, the book talks about how you can repeat the game and maybe focus on different things. When you're playing a game for the first time, you usually are focusing on being good at the game. But once you are maybe 2 plays in, 3 plays in, you don't have to worry about that stuff, so you can focus on things like the music or how different things. Gameplay videos and being able to repeat the gameplay video are another way to kind of keep your focus on the music. Secondly, you can play the game in a way that goes with the storyline, which you would think has the game music play in a way that was mostly intended by the composer. But you can also play in a way that you do not go with the storyline. I call this contrary gameplay. Summers in the chapter calls this reactionary gameplay. And this would be an example. I'm playing Fallout 4 a lot these days, would be in Fallout 4 you have to go to a vault, which is an underground shelter. That's the first thing that you do in the game. That's how you learn to control the character. So an example of reactionary gameplay is not going to the vault, kind of going where you're not supposed to go. In the case of Fallout 4, what happens is that eventually the bomb goes off, your character dies, and you have to start over again. So these are versions of analytical play that you might try when you're analyzing game music. The next in-game source is to literally go in the game and examine code, look at the game engine, look at file names. This is quite technical, and as the book mentions, sometimes not legal, because some game developers prohibit you from accessing the code in this way. Not that that's ever really stopped anybody, but you can sometimes, based on the file names, infer, oh, this is battle music, or so the book says. I have personally never tried this way of game music analysis, but who knows? If you feel like you can and you want to, why not? Finally, the final in-game source is analyzing musical material. And this involves transcription. Transcription is simply writing the music out. And that is a skill that, you need a pretty solid music background to be able to do. It is not something we expect you to do in this class, but it's something that you'll see particularly in YouTuber content. A lot of these YouTubers are very good transcribers. 8-Bit Music Theory has really awesome transcriptions that they use and kind of show on the screen while they discuss the music. Through the transcription, they analyze musical themes that may happen. A really common musical theme use is themes associated with different characters in a video game. You might analyze harmony or things like that. 8-Bit Music Theory, we're going to check out that channel later on. It's a really excellent channel, so if you feel so inclined, I encourage you to just check it out now. So the satellite sources, again, are sources that are not in the game, but kind of sources adjacent to the game. So this involves interviews with composers, maybe the producers, recordings or liner notes, reviews of the game that someone on the internet might have published. And this includes musical scores for kind of a different way. So interviews can be interviews with the composer or other producers. Nobuo Uematsu has lots of interviews that you can check out. Major game composers, you probably can find something that they've said. Back in the era of physical media, which we're going back to it, so maybe this would apply. When people released albums as CDs, you sometimes had things like liner notes, where you could check out something written by maybe a scholar or maybe the composer. Liner notes sometimes had lyrics in them, but this was a little booklet that came with the CD. So if that exists, cool. Game music might have reviews. I was kind of looking around the internet for the sort of stuff I found. IndieGameReviewer.com, they have like a top 10 music of 2020 list. I don't think they have a list since, from what I can see, but maybe they do. There's also this website, The Greatest Game Music. Anybody can make a website. So discussion of game music and reviewers can sometimes not be that different than what you might create, but it is nice to have a different perspective in that way. Finally, musical scores. This is related to transcribing, which is technically an in-game source, but I would say musical scores are kind of more an indicator of popularity and reception. Halo, in this case, has many arrangements and transcriptions for the purpose of being able to perform this music in other spaces. I don't know how much this contributes to your understanding of the game or game music, but it is interesting and an indicator of certain themes and how they get popular. I'm actually pretty shocked that there are so many arrangements. For example, this screenshot is from a concert band arrangement of themes from Halo 3. I just think that's pretty fun. Not every source is going to exist for a game, and that's okay. For example, not every game franchise has the opportunity to remake their game decades later. Not every game is going to have a named composer to interview. For example, some games were actually made collaboratively by a team of composers. But your job as a baby ludomusicologist and a good researcher means that you're going to look for all possible credible sources. And the main takeaways that I want you to have from this video are, 1, you can analyze game music because there are many ways that exist to do it. Even if maybe you're learning about musical terms as you're getting through this class, you can play a game and listen to the music and use the words that you have at that moment to describe it. And that's what I want you to do and wish for you in this class. And I just want to encourage you to continue to hone your vocabulary over the weeks ahead. Come to office hours if you're unsure how to apply something, and keep watching videos and copy the language that I'm giving you to start. To get Chapter 2, you're going to request it from the library. Our library is awesome, and you have the ability to request chapters electronically from the library. I'm going to share a video with you that you'll watch in Canvas to learn how, and I hope that you enjoy the article.